In the year 1848, in a small wooden house in Hydesville, New York, three sisters lived with their family. Their names were Margaret, often called Maggie, Catherine, known as Kate, and the eldest Leah, who lived separately in Rochester. What seemed like an ordinary family of modest means would soon become the spark that ignited one of the most extraordinary movements in American history. The story began with strange sounds in the night: tapping, knocking, rapping noises that echoed through the wooden walls of the Fox household. Their parents, John and Margaret Fox, believed the house was haunted. Young Kate and Maggie, only teenagers at the time, began to communicate with the sounds. They asked questions and the raps responded, one for yes, two for no. At first it was seen as a childish game, yet soon the entire neighborhood gathered to witness the phenomenon. The mysterious knocks grew louder, more consistent, and eerily intelligent. Word spread quickly. Neighbors crowded into the small home night after night, candles flickering, casting long shadows as the Fox girls sat still, pale-faced, asking questions and receiving answers through the unseen raps. "Were you? How did you die?" The knocks answered with chilling precision. The spirit claimed to be a murdered peddler buried in the cellar of the house. Curiosity turned into obsession as locals dug into the basement searching for bones, though their findings were inconclusive. The belief in the haunting had already taken hold. Leah, the eldest sister, realized the potential of what her younger siblings had stumbled upon. She brought Maggie and Kate to Rochester and soon began arranging public demonstrations. The sisters performed seances in drawing rooms and theaters, the atmosphere thick with smoke from oil lamps and the murmurs of expectant crowds. Audiences sat in silence as the raps echoed on tables, walls, and floors. Seemingly evil, the Fox sisters became instant sensations, hailed as mediums capable of bridging the world of the living with that of the dead. The timing was perfect. Mid-19th century America was ripe for a new kind of faith. The country was shaken by rapid change, industrial growth, political upheaval, and the looming shadow of death that haunted families torn apart by disease and hardship. People yearned for comfort. They wanted proof that the soul survived the grave. The Fox sisters gave them exactly that. Through their seances they offered not only mystery but also hope. Grieving parents, widows, and soldiers' families came to them, desperate to hear even the faintest knock from their departed loved ones. Newspapers seized upon the story, spreading it across the nation. Within months the Fox sisters were household names. Their seances grew more elaborate. The raps were joined by moving tables, flickering flames, and ghostly whispers. Sometimes answers came in full alphabet, spelled out letter by letter. The sisters would ask questions, the audience would hold their breath, and the raps would respond, guiding everyone into the belief that a spirit was truly present. Soon the phenomenon was called Spiritualism, a movement that promised direct contact with the afterlife. Crowds swelled, theaters overflowed as the sisters traveled from town to town. Demonstrations were held before ministers, politicians, and scientists. Even skeptics left puzzled, unable to explain the strange sounds that seemed to come from nowhere. Some accused trickery, yet no one could prove how three young women could deceive hundreds at once. The Fox sisters held the world in thrall by simply sitting at a table and listening to invisible hands knocking from the other side. But fame came at a cost. Maggie and Kate were still young, impressionable, and burdened with the weight of expectation. Leah pressed them forward, arranging more seances, more appearances, more income. The sisters were thrust into the spotlight, their names tied to the growing spiritualist movement. They were invited to New York City, where packed halls awaited them, and believers flocked to join this new faith. The Fox sisters had become not only performers, but prophets, their every action scrutinized, their every word amplified. By the early 1850s, the movement they sparked had spread across America and even to Europe. Spiritualism attracted both the wealthy and the poor. From grand parlors in London to humble kitchens in Ohio, spirits were being summoned, tables tilted, candles flickered, and voices whispered in the dark. What began as the mysterious raps in a farmhouse in Hydesville had become a revolution, a new religion for those who sought solace beyond traditional churches. The Fox sisters were hailed as its founders, the haunted family who had opened the door to the dead. Yet beneath the surface, cracks had already begun to form. The sisters quarreled with one another. Accusations of greed and exploitation surfaced. Skeptics grew bolder, pointing out inconsistencies in the seances and whispering that the raps were nothing more than clever manipulation. Still the faithful defended them, insisting that even if fraud existed, the message of comfort and connection was real. Maggie and Kate themselves struggled with doubt, burdened by the knowledge of their methods and the guilt that pressed upon them late into the night. As the decade progressed, their fame expanded, but so did their troubles. Rumors swirled about their personal lives, their reliance on alcohol, their growing exhaustion from endless performances, and the moral weight of leading thousands to believe in what they themselves no longer fully trusted. But for now, in these early years, the Fox sisters still held power. They were the first haunted family of America, the ones who gave voice to the silence of the grave, and in doing so changed history forever. As the years passed, the weight of fame began to crush the Fox sisters. Maggie and Kate grew weary of the endless seances, the constant demands, the whispers of fraud that followed them wherever they went. Leah pushed them harder, arranging more appearances, more demonstrations, insisting that their mission was sacred. Yet beneath the surface, resentment brewed. Maggie longed for a normal life. Kate battled with her health, and both turned increasingly to alcohol for comfort. By the 1860s, spiritualism had spread far beyond the control of the sisters. Thousands of mediums emerged across America, each claiming to channel spirits, each offering comfort to the grieving. The Fox sisters were still revered as pioneers, but they were no longer alone in their influence. In some ways, they had become victims of the very movement they had inspired, their lives consumed by the expectations of believers and skeptics alike. Whispers of trickery grew louder. Investigators exposed fraudulent mediums who used wires, magnets, or hidden accomplices, and though the Fox sisters were never conclusively caught, their reputation suffered. Many who had once praised them now doubted their abilities, even as others defended them with fierce loyalty. Newspapers alternated between glorifying and ridiculing them, and the sisters themselves felt trapped in a cage of their own making. The breaking point came in 1888 when Maggie stood before a packed audience in New York City and delivered a shocking confession. She revealed that the mysterious raps that had begun it all were created by manipulating the joints of their toes, snapping them against wooden floors and walls. She demonstrated the method live before the crowd. The audience gasped as the illusion crumbled. Decades of faith shattered in a single night. Maggie admitted that she and Kate had deceived the world. Their rise built on a secret trick. The confession sent shockwaves through the spiritualist community. Believers felt betrayed, skeptics felt vindicated. Newspapers splashed headlines declaring the sisters frauds. Yet even in their confession, the story was not simple. Some argued that Maggie spoke out of bitterness and poverty, desperate for money. Others claimed that the sisters had real gifts once but lost them over time and resorted to trickery to maintain their fame. Still, others believed that whether or not the knocks were genuine, the comfort spiritualism provided was more important than the truth. Kate too admitted to the deception, though she spoke with sorrow and confusion. Torn between guilt and the desire to be believed, she was frail by then, struggling with alcoholism, her health failing. The sisters who had once captivated the world now faced ridicule, isolation, and poverty. Leah distanced herself, focusing on her own life, while Maggie and Kate spiraled downward. The family that had once been united by mystery was now broken by it. Maggie later recanted her confession, insisting that she had spoken under pressure and that the spirits were real. After all, her words only deepened the mystery. Were they tricksters confessing at last, or visionaries silenced by doubt and hardship? The truth remained elusive, as it always had. The Fox sisters faded into obscurity, their final years marked by poverty, illness, and loneliness. Maggie died in 1893, Kate 2 years later, both buried with little ceremony, remembered not as celebrated mediums but as tragic figures consumed by their own creation. And yet, despite their downfall, the legacy of the Fox sisters endures. Spiritualism continued to flourish long after their deaths. It inspired movements in Europe, influenced writers, scientists, and religious leaders, and laid the foundation for countless mediums who followed their path. The Fox sisters were both the beginning and the cautionary tale. Their lives a reminder of how hope and deception can intertwine until the line between them disappears entirely. The story of the Fox sisters resonates because it asks timeless questions. Why do we believe in what we cannot see? Why do we seek voices from the grave? What comfort do we find in the idea that death is not the end? Their tale is both inspiring and haunting, a reflection of human longing for connection and the dangers of chasing it through illusions. As you reflect on their journey, think of the candlelit rooms filled with anxious faces waiting for a single knock. Think of the sisters themselves, young, frightened, and clever, turning silence into sound and sound into belief. What began as a simple trick, or perhaps something more, became a movement that touched millions, and even now the echoes remain in seances, ghost stories, and the enduring fascination with the unknown. Do you believe the Fox sisters were frauds who fooled a nation, or pioneers who tapped into mysteries we still cannot explain? Was their confession the truth, or a desperate act of survival? Can a lie still create comfort and meaning for those who need it most? These are the questions their story leaves for us. Tell us what you think in the comments. Were the Fox sisters guilty of deception or victims of a world hungry for mystery? If you found this story fascinating and want to uncover more forgotten families and their dark secrets, make sure to subscribe, share this with friends who love history and mystery, and stay with us as we continue to explore the shadows of the past together.